welcome to QLab. Now I'm beginning a set of videos where we're going to study how plants work, and we're getting into quite a lot of depth. But first we need to get some material to work with, and so we're going to grow our own experiments. As usual, everything you need will be listed in the description box, and let's get started. When we speed plants up, they can look like magic, but instead I find it useful to think of them as a program. And just like with the computer program, when we plant this seed, it's a little bit like loading up the plant, and it starts to progress until we've got a lovely plant. And some of the things I find exciting is when you have a seed that you don't know what it's for or what the flower will look like, and then you don't know what you're going to get until it's fully loaded. So it's important what seeds we select, and you can use almost any seed as long as it's a relatively small plant. I've selected a calendula, sometimes called marigold, a dahlia seed, and I have no idea what these will look like, they're just some collected seed, and some rose campion. This is a pretty cottage garden flower, and it's often found in hedgerows too. Even from this very small collection of seeds, you can see all the different shapes and sizes. And you can see how we've got these little curved ones and straight ones and little round ones. But anyway, let's get these planted. I just have a bit of compost soaking here, and in fact I'm going to do 2 lots because some of the experiments I want to do have a comparison between 2 different setups. But don't worry, if you don't, by the way, these little pots that they're in, they're not gardening type pots, they're just old mushroom pots. I got, what are the big ones called? Oh, I can't remember, but anyway, big mushrooms, there you get sort of 4 of them in a tray, and these trays are great for growing things in. But I'm using them as just to water in these pots at the minute. If you don't have this type of pot as well, you can just use some of these plastic, white plastic cups, like that instead. Just poke a few holes in the bottom for drainage, and it will do the job just as well. So don't worry, none of these experiments have to be expensive. It's the wonderful thing about gardening, is it doesn't have to be expensive at all. It can get very expensive, especially if you go and get everything from the garden centre. But if you collect little bits and bobs around, it doesn't have to be expensive at all. Now all I'm doing is poking a little hole in these pots that I've filled up with some compost. I just filled it up to the top and then squished it down a little bit, and it dropped to a little bit below the rim, and that's absolutely plenty. And now I'm not doing anything fancy with these seeds. Let's start with the calendula, because it's very reliable and has an incredibly funny seed. What I hope to do with these videos is we're going to start just by this, sowing and growing some material. We're going to go full circle and learn how the leaves work, how the stem works, how the flower works, and then we'll collect seed hopefully from these plants, and we'll have a look at the seed under a microscope and see how it works as well. Anyway, you can see there's a bit of seed in there, and I'm going to get 1 or 2 of these out just to show they're quite a funny shape. They've got this sort of, let's see if the camera will focus. There we go. Got this sort of curved or hooked shape. Now I'm just going to pop 2 in this one here, at this top corner, and I'm going to do exactly the same here. So that those 2 I know are calendula. This dahlia seed, it's old, so it's probably not going to germinate terribly well. And what I'm going to do is pop a couple of seeds, or maybe 3 or 4 seeds, in each one. If all of them come up, so that's 1, 2, 3, and a 4th seed. By the way, I just popped a little hole using the back of a pen, just into the middle. And I'll do the same on this side one. 1, 2, 3. Oh, I need a 4th seed. There we go. 4th seed. If they all come up, well, I can prick out the ones I don't want. Just take them out, or as I often do, because I like plants too much, I try to save them all. So I'll prick out the ones that are maybe a bit smaller, and I'll try and pop them on in another pot, and they often work. And then you're left with far too many plants. It's a problem I regularly have. Anyway, this was packaged up in August. Oh, you can't read a thing because it's not focusing. There we go, in August. It's some rose campion, and we'll put those in these end ones. What I'm going to basically do is sprinkle some in, and I'm even going to put some around, because sometimes these seeds don't need to be very deep, and I can never remember all seed instructions, so it can be good to do a little mixy, and then something's bound to work and you get a plant. So those are our seeds planted in there, and all I did before with this compost was just put I put a little bit of water over the top. This one actually needs a bit more compost. Put a little bit of water over the top, and then I let it soak through into these mushroom trays, and they don't have any holes in them, so they collect the water and allow it to sort of soak back up into the seed, into the little pot. And all I want to do is make sure that this compost is really good and moist, and then I won't water them again, probably until I see a good seedling coming up, so maybe in 2 weeks, maybe even a month, unless they get really dry, and it's really obvious they're very dry. But you don't need to overwater things, that's likely to lead things to rot. You don't want that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to make up some labels very quickly, and then we're going to transfer these pots once they've been in the water for a while. Let me just move these out of the way. I've just got this piece of cardboard down so that I don't make a mess of the table. Onto this orange tray that can just sit in a windowsill. We've placed our seeds in each of the pots, and I've just labelled them up here with a simple calendula A, calendula B, dahlia A, dahlia B, rose campion A and rose campion B. And what we're going to want to do is weigh each of these at this point. So what I did, and it's a little bit important that we weigh them at the same time, otherwise we might have different amounts of moisture, and then we'll just be weighing the different amounts of moisture that's present. So what I did is I soaked these, I just placed them in those containers with some water for about 5 minutes, took them out, placed them on this orange tray, and then left them overnight, so it's the next day. And that's what I'll do every time I want to weigh them. I'll soak them the day before, then I'll put them back on the tray so they can drain out any excess fluid and dry through some of it, and then I can weigh them. And if they're at that same point, we shouldn't have too much deviation. We'll have quite a lot of deviation. Just popping a tile on top of the balance I've got here so I don't make it all messy. And I've got a little notebook for taking the readings. And all I'm going to do in here is record the date. So today's the 22nd of March. And I can put the name of the sample, so I can have the sample and its mass, and it will be in grams. And I'll just put calendula A, calendula B, dahlia A, dahlia B, and the rose campion A, rose campion B. And all we have to do is weigh them. Now, one of the things is with this, and every balance has its own little setup as to how it will work. Let me just push this forward so you can see a bit clearer. If I have this on here and then I start it, it will automatically zero the balance as though there's nothing on top. If you've already switched on your balance and then you put this on, obviously it will weigh the tile, and you'll just need to tear it or zero it by pressing the start button again. So we'll just weigh the first one, and it's 179 grams. So we've got a nice table laid out to record our measurements, and we've taken our first measurement so we can put that in for the calendula A, and then we can just add all the rest nice and quick with the magic of television. So there we've got the data collected for this date, and I've left some spaces so I can measure it in about 2 weeks' time, and we'll just keep updating this and have a look at that in a later video. So that's all we can do for now, and what we want to do is pop these on a nice sunny windowsill so that they can germinate and we can see the little seedlings as they come up. So I've got this footage of the early stages of these seedlings. This is the dahlia seedlings, and you can just about see them as they're beginning to emerge. I didn't manage to get full clips because I'm still working out how to use time-lapse. This one's very interesting. This is a little rose campion seed. You can see it's tiny in the middle, but if you watch closely you can see as it begins its rotational cycle. So it's basically trying to find where the light is the brightest. And in this one I managed to collect quite a lot. This is the calendula. You can see the little flower, the little leaf, sorry, as it's beginning to push through. It has actually 2 leaves that are sort of compressed. It's got to use the water that pumps up through that stem to open out. You get this lovely little set of 2 baby leaves. So what I'll do now is pop these on the windowsill and we'll check on them in a little bit. So this photograph was taken about 2.5 weeks after planting. I'm afraid I was poorly, that's why I didn't do some video. But you can see that I've got the calendula on the left, the 2 dahlias in the middle, and quite a lot of those germinated, and a whole load of the rose campion on the right. Now I did end up taking out some of the dahlias that had germinated, that you can see in this picture, and I potted those on. And you can see, look at these rose campion, things germinated pretty well. But let's have a look at these again in a little bit. So today is the 27th of April, and as you can see, all the plants are doing quite well. I've been weighing them, but they're getting to the point now, well, these are very crowded. I'm not going to split these up because they're just too crowded. But I do want to pot things on. Now, you might think, well, how on earth am I going to sort the weighing by changing their pots? I've thought about that, don't worry. Basically, I've weighed them now, and I will put them in a new pot, and I'll weigh them again. And all I'll have to do is take away the mass of them now, and I've got the weight of the other soil in the pot as well. So don't worry, it's very easy to keep track of. And when we finally go through all these calculations to show how this mass is changing, then we'll be able to go through that maths as well. So here we are with them all repotted. Don't worry about the labels on the plants, the pots, they don't mean anything, they're just from old labels. So I'm reusing these pots. You can see they all look quite nice, and I'm just going to weigh them, and then we've got those masses recorded. Now there's something about this one I just want to discuss. Unfortunately I did break a leaf off when I was repotting it, but I also deliberately pricked out or pinched off the end here. And what that's done is encouraged these growing tips to form, and you can also see them on this lower set as well, and that'll make the plant bush up a little bit more rather than just going straight up. And there you have it. I didn't separate out any of these. I know they're very busy, but they'll be good for this experiment. I'm not even sure where on earth I'm going to plant them out, but there we go, all potted up and looking nice. Right, I think we'll wrap up this part here, and hopefully we can continue to watch these plants grow. Now remember, it's helpful to consider a seed as a program, so go and find the many beautiful and wacky programs out there. And if you like this video, why not consider liking, commenting and subscribing? Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed that. I'll be bringing out a follow-on for this video pretty soon, well, probably in about a month or two, which will be part 2. If you did enjoy and don't want to miss that, why not subscribe, as that also helps the channel out. And we'll hopefully see you next time. Bye!